All right, here we go, people. This is it. It is our first look at the engineering, graphics and design guidelines for the practical assessment tasks. Each one of you in class have one of these, and it is, of course, official document from the Department of Education. This is what your PAT in engineering, graphics and design is about. Before I page one more page, I'd like to use this space at the bottom to quickly remind you of something. In your school year, your SBA tasks, okay? In other words, all the tasks that you'll be doing in this year, including the exams, the June, the April, the prelims, that is 25% of your final mark that will be out of 100%. Yes or no? Right here. In between your school-based assessment and this lies three things. The first is your PAT. This is another 25% of your potential 100 marks. And then you've got November, paper 1, another 25%, and November, paper 2, another 25%. So when we get to the November, 50% of your final mark would already been determined. And it's this year, the work that you're doing this year in class, in exams, that's that 25%. And this document that we're looking now at is another full 25%. And people, to be honest with you, there's no reason for you not to get either 100% or very close to 100% in this PAT, because every little detail that you require is in this document. So please, no excuses. In this class, I'm not accepting anyone with a PAT less than 80%. You will work and make sure that you achieve the criteria that we're going to discuss now. So just make sure you understand that. In the end, you want a mark on your final NSC certificate that is as close as possible to that 100%. And with hard work and determination, everybody can achieve that 100%. So remember this. Then the last two papers, of course, is going to be in November. Let's look at the PAT document. I'll have this as a download in the description also and on Google Classroom for you guys. So this is how it starts off here in bold, that this PAT is 25% of your final mark. All right. And we are going to look specifically, and I'll just zoom in here as we walk through this so that you're able to follow with me. We are specifically looking at the PAT civil design project of engineering, graphics and design. We're not paying attention to the mechanical. All right. You, the learner, with the guidance of your teacher, must select one, and we have already, with my guidance, selected civil. All right. All the presentation requirements of this PAT must be strictly adhered to, and in the exception of the research component, must be completed at school and under supervision of the teacher. So a lot of this work will be done here at school. Then, although the sharing of knowledge and ideas is permissible, none of the presentations may be shared or copied. Okay, it has to be your own work. The entire PAT must be completed individually, and that includes all the presentations. That is very important. You cannot copy someone else's work. You can't copy what you see on any other platform. And so even in my tutorials and my How to Act the PAT series I'm going to be doing for you guys, I can't give the answers. I can give guidance, I can teach you, but you will have to come up with the answers yourself. All right. Then the PAT must be of an appropriate higher order, grade 12 complexity. So very clearly, it cannot look like your baby sister did this PAT or a grade 10 did it. It needs to be at a very high standard. All freehand drawings and instrument drawings must be prepared in pencil. That is, of course, clear. The PAT must be completed in phases and within the given time frames that I will give you. There will be a pace setter with a management plan. We'll look at that. Then the PAT will be assessed according to relevant criteria, and this document that I'm sharing with you actually shares that criteria. It exactly shows you, and we're going to just in this introduction video first look at that. All right. Then, so there will be a checklist that you will be using, and so there's going to be continuous self-evaluation. You yourself will know whether you're hitting the mark or not, and then at the end of this there will be a declaration of authenticity to promise me and those who's moderating that this work is your authentic own work. All right. Then you are not permitted to use any of the photographs or pictures or website contained in this PAT document. In this specific one, it actually means You can't take your site plan that is on the last page and just cut that out and paste it in. You have to redraw those kind of things. And then untidy and messy work as well as late submissions will be penalized. So just take note of that. All right. So let's look. This is the first look at the actual PAT. Let's page through that. And we're just going to read through. This is, of course, just introduction. There will be a couple of more sessions that's going to be much clearer for everybody watching. But this is just an overview. All right. Civil design project. And here is your actual scenario. The National Monuments Council of South Africa recently restored historical significant buildings on a wine estate, plot 36 of 61, and declared them national monuments. To cater for visitors, permission was granted by the National Monuments Council to build what? A new restaurant and a small museum on the estate. Okay? You have been tasked by the National Monuments Council, so they are those that's appointing you to do this project, to submit, and this is what you are doing, a proposed design solution for the proposed new restaurant and small museum, which will forthwith simply be referred to as restaurant. That is your PAT task. You have to come up with a proposed design solution of what? The proposed new restaurant and small museum. People, this first paragraph sets it out very clearly, and this first paragraph frames now the detail that will follow. So let's look at the details. So now we're going to look at the different parts, the restaurant and the small museum, and what is the criteria. The restaurant must be, and you can use a highlighter, what it must be. Does that start to sound like a specification? Yes, it must be single story. It must be a brick structure. It must have a maximum total area of 200 square meters. This is the restaurant that we're talking about. The roof must be a gable design with a 500 millimeter overhang on all sides. On all sides, that's important. With corrugated steel roof sheeting. We've got specification of the specification coming here. Finished with fascia boards, gutters, rainwater downpipes, and the sides, the barge boards to the ends. Then the restaurant must consist of, what must be inside? Large open inside dining area, okay, of no less than 110 square meters. A large kitchen, separate scullery, separate pantry, unisex toilet facilities, and a toilet facility for disabled people. Then in the dining area, so there must be a dining area, there must be what? Dedicated section with large countertop for serving a buffet lunch on Sundays, and for the display and sale of over-the-counter eats and refreshments. So there's another display here on all other. There must be wide wooden multi-panel sliding doors. Right? Can't have aluminium, it's wooden. With 3 or more panels, they're even specifying the panels. Long 2 adjacent walls of the dining area leading out onto adjoining 3-meter wide veranda, which runs along the same 2 adjacent walls as the restaurant. Okay. Then the veranda, which is not included in that 200 square meters of the restaurant, must be covered by wooden pergolas, as it will be used as additional outside dining space. Okay, that's the restaurant. Then we zoom in on the kitchen of that restaurant. The kitchen now, you can use another color if you want, must have a floor area of no less than 35 square meters. Be seated at the back of the restaurant, so they tell you the placement of it. Kitchen must be separated from the dining area by a brick wall with a single 180-degree swing door leading into the kitchen and a single 180 swing door leading out. So it's an in and out doorway there. Our kitchen into dining. There must be a single sink, built-in cupboards, and sufficient workspaces for the preparation of food, placing of kitchen, as well as a space for 2 large refrigerators, 2 large industrial stoves in that kitchen. Leading off the kitchen must be separated scullery with what? 2 double sinks, space for 2 dishwashers, as well as separate lockable pantry. You see, you'll have to take the time and make notes of this, and we'll do that in just another session. But you can actually take the kitchen and list all the specifications. Then you can take the pantry or the scullery, list all the specifications. The restaurant, to get the picture. The scullery and the pantry must each have floor areas of approximately 10 square. Both kitchen and scullery must have an exterior door and windows. Right. Then we get to our toilet facilities. The unisex toilet facility must be, and you'll have to think here because still the bathrooms inside is separate. So they're sharing the washing basin, but the toilets need to be separate. You're not going to have urinals in here, of course. Must be directly accessible from the inside dining area. So it specifies the access of this from the restaurant. The facility must consist of 5 separate cubicles, each with a toilet, a wash basin, and its own small window. Okay, so there you see it. Each one of these cubicles actually has its own toilet, own basin, and a small window. One of the cubicles must have a large door and more space to accommodate, will be wheelchair friendly. Then the building of the museum must be a single-story, semi-detached. So now we get to the museum, all right? And that must be a single-story, semi-detached, 6 by 8, exact size brick structure. All right. What does semi-detached mean? What could be? What's it? If it was detached, it would have been completely separate. But semi-detached means yes.
It's still attached, but it has its own entrance.
Yes, or it has maybe a walkway that's attaching them, or a bridge, or a wall at least. No, that is still connected. Structure that stands adjacent, so it's right next to it, and shares a common wall with the restaurant. There we have it. That's why it's semi-detached. The museum must be accessible off the veranda, must have no direct access into any part of the restaurant. So they want you to access it via the veranda. To complement the heritage of the estate, the entrance to the museum must have a typical centrally placed decorative Cape Dutch facade. There's the important part. Above a double wooden door with a sash windows on either side. The museum must have a gabled roof with a corrugated steel, so similar roofing than the restaurant. The new restaurant and museum must have sufficient electrical lighting and switch sockets, outlets in all rooms and areas. All sewer and wastewater from the restaurant must be connected to the manhole on the municipal sewage line in Hillside Road. We'll look at that now on the site plan. Included in the design must be driveways. So you have to do that. Parking areas for at least 10 standard size cars situated close to the restaurant. 2 parking bays for disabled people. All right, let's page around because here is our site plan. And I think we can look at that together. And let's just quickly look at some of the elements that we see on the site plan. Okay, so we have our height above sea level. Very similar if you look at the 4 corners, 126, 1326, 1327, 1326, 1325. So it's a relatively flat surface. You don't have to make allowance for an incline. It's flat enough. All right. There's existing barn, existing outbuilding, and existing dwelling. And they give you the sizing of this and even the placement of your trees. You have your building all around here. Then there's existing vineyard on the right hand side. Let's just quickly see. Where's that manhole? Okay, there's the sewer manhole. That's the one that you have to connect to. Look at the direction of this flow. Okay, you can see it's from the highest to the lowest part. So that's Hillside Road, and that's where you'll connect your sewage. You've got a 5-meter vehicle entrance on the left hand side and an exit on the other side. And so we have to determine a placement for these buildings, the restaurant and the museum. Can I encourage you? Nowhere here does it say you cannot remove a tree. Am I right? But I would love for you to consider not moving a tree or cutting it off because, you know, it's established. It's an established site. You want to be respectful of that site. And I'm sure we have enough room to fit everything we need in here, including our parking drivers. If there's a shade, just think how nice that will work with the veranda or the seating area out of the restaurant. You know, even parking just in a shaded area. So ideally you can move or cut off a tree, remove it completely, but let's see if our designs can fit in there. All right, they've given you a key here on the right, so you can see what's the vineyards and the oak trees and the sizing. And this, of course, will be one of your drawings that we'll look at. All right. this is just a first look. Let's look at the presentation requirements, and here it steps it up a little bit. How do we start this? These are the steps for the presentation, for the thing that you have to submit. And so a lot of important parts to this. Analyze the given scenario and formulate a design brief in 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph must be in your own words and give what? A brief background to the project as well as a comprehensive description of what has to be designed. So that's your first paragraph. It's in your own words, people. And it gives a brief background to the project as well as a comprehensive description of what has to be designed. So there is a little bit more information. The second paragraph, again in your own words, give a clear overview of your role in this project as well as a description of the complete design process. So the first one says what you're going to do. The second paragraph says how you're going to do it. How would you word the second paragraph? Give me an example. How would you describe your role? What would be the design process? Just touch on it for me. Who would like? Yes, go.
So there's also a company for that.
Yeah. Okay.
So jy sal sê byvoorbeeld ek is die argitek wat
Yes.
gestel is om die plan, so vloerplan
Ja.
design op te stel vir die restaurant, nuwe restaurant en museum.
Yeah. Yeah, that's excellent. And then you're going to add to that. So you're going to say, hey, I'm the architect that's been appointed and my role is I'm going to do what? The research. Going to come up with freehand concepts. Going to do a floor plan. Going to do elevation. So you're basically just saying what you're going to do in the second paragraph. And it doesn't have to be sentences on end.
Met die ontwerpproses moet mens soos datums add wat jy beplan klaar te maak met
Yeah, that's where we get to the management plan. That's the next part. So let's look at that. Then from that scenario and the management plan that I'll give you, include the following as part. You have to list 20 of the given specifications. You'll agree with me that we probably read 40 in here. Okay? So the minimum is 20. But the more the merrier, and the better you're going to know what you're going to have to, because you're going to constantly go back to that specification list to know what am I doing. And if you can group this in restaurant and museum plus even the restaurant into the kitchen, the pantry, whatever, it's even better. Then you have to list 5 constraints. We'll do a lesson on that. So all of this we'll still do bigger lessons on. This is just an overview. And then here's the management plan that you just referred to, Philip. Management plan with target dates and for the completion of each of the requirements. Then you'll do your research. In this, you'll have to have examples and construction details of. This is what you're going to do research. Wooden multi-panel sliding doors with 3 or more panels. You're also going to do examples and construction of wooden pergolas. And then third, you're going to do gable roof designs and 3 examples of Cape Dutch roof. So 3 gabled roof designs and 3 Cape Dutch. And of course, I'll give you some direction in that. Yes.
Wat is 'n pergola?
It's like a walkway. A pergola is like a wooden over your head. On a walkway, you would have a pergola. It's just like, it doesn't have sheeting on it, so you're going to get rain wet. But it's just like a over the head kind of. All right, let's go on. The research must be relevant and should therefore be in the form of graphic material, pictures, illustrations. People, please, we don't want paragraphs, pictures. Evidence of at least 5 different examples. It covers all requirements. And then we'll talk about this, but it's going to be done on A3, of course. There must be clear evidence that the research has been used in your design. So make sure it's relevant research and that it is used in the end. And you have to keep a bibliography directly after the research. A lot of learners put this on the last page. It needs to be at the end of your research. Then we're going to do neat freehand detailed drawings of the floor plan and layout of 2 possible design solutions for the new restaurant and museum. So you have to include here both of them in each drawing, including the veranda. Okay? And then there's a couple of other parts here, calculations of floor areas, etc., that also needs to be indicated. But it's got to be 2 different pages on A3. All right. And then you have to use grid graph paper. We'll look at that also in future. All right. And yeah, these are just some of the notes that you have to comply with when you get to the actual freehand drawings. Then selecting the best solution. On a separate page, you will compare and evaluate the two freehand solutions with a table with at least 6 relevant and self-explanatory descriptive criteria. And you'll then apply that rating scale and justify why you chose the concept 1 or concept 2. So we will do a lesson on all of these components. I'm just walking through the actual requirements. So we have, first of all here, we have our design brief, which is our specific 2 paragraphs plus your specifications, constraints, and management plan. Then we have our research, and after the research, we have our 2 freehand drawings. After that, we select the best solution. Once we've gotten the solution, we're going to go on, and now it is the formal presentation requirements, which is phase 2 of your PAT. That's what they like to refer it to. And that's where we get to the SANS compliant civil drawings, okay, which has a full civil title panel. Can't skip that civil title panel, and it needs to be only on one of your. Normally, the floor plan might be a little bit big, so you can do the civil panel on the site plan or one of the elevations. But I'll help you with that on where to place that. And then, so here's our detailed layout drawings of the selected features of a complete restaurant and museum, including the veranda and pergola. So this must always be included. And what is it? You have to do a floor plan drawn to a suitable scale, preferably not smaller than scale 1 to 75. Take note of that. So the first formal drawing is a floor plan. The second floor, it's 2 elevations, okay? And it must show the front entrance to the museum, and the other must do a side view of the museum. So they've already specified that for you. And it's going to be the same scale or a different scale than the floor plan? Same or different? No, same. Then your section, that's going to be scale 1 to 20. And here they tell you exactly what, showing detail from the foundation to the roof on a cutting plane that passes through a wooden multi-panel sliding door, the veranda, and wooden pergola. So this already tells me in my research, I need to research what does a section look of a multi-panel sliding door. How does that section look? Find that out. All right. Add some more details to these. All the relevant views must include these specifications. We'll look at that again. And then you're going to do your site plan, which they've given you already. And also that will have certain things that needs to be included the setting out the dimensions, sewer detail, etc. And then the last part, lucky for you, is a traditional back to basics bird's eye view of a 2-point perspective, and you can include the veranda, but you can exclude the pergolas in that. All right. They tell you that the horizon line must be at least 1 meter above the top of the roof. We'll do a lesson on that as well. And then lastly, it is your presentation requirements with regards to how to create this portfolio. We'll look at that in a later stage, but you can read through that. The last thing I want to show you is this magic list here. People, there's nothing more important, I tell you right now, than this list. Let me show you how this works. Okay, so this is your own checklist. So let's look at this now, for instance. In the very first design brief, that first paragraph, that includes the background and comprehensive description of what is to be designed. The maximum that we can give you is 2 out of 2. In other words, if you've given a background and a comprehensive description of what is to be designed, and it is here, presentation shows at least 80% or more evidence of knowledge, I have to give you a 2. Okay? But let's say you've done the background without a comprehensive description, you're going to get a 1. Let's say you do don't give the background, but you give it a comprehensive description, but there's no background to it, and it's maybe not in your own words, you've just copied it over. I can't give you a 2 out of 2. Okay? And so let's look at it. When we're working with 2 marks, if the requirement is not met or less than 30% of evidence of knowledge shown, you're going to get a 0. So like even if you attempt it, but it's really poorly done, we can't give you a mark there. If it's between 30 and 80%, it's a 1 out of 2. Do you see there? You can, in other words, you can do 70% of the effort and still just get a 1 that counts actually 50%. So it's really worth your effort to do good in each one of these so that you can get the 2. Okay? Look at the second one. Your role and description of the design process you're going to follow. 2 out of 2. A list of 20 given specifications. If you do 18, can you get a 2? No way. Okay? So please, this is what you're going to use. And every part of this, the numbering here is important. The heading is important. Your first paragraph is going to be numbered 1.1. Your second paragraph, 1.2. Your specification is going to be, your constraints is going to be, management plan is going to be, and the title will be management plan. Title for 1.4 will be constraints. Title for 1.3 will be specifications. Are you with me? So you are going to sleep with this under your cushion. And when you wake up and you're going to do research, you know 2.1 must be examples and construction details of wooden multiple slides. That is what you are doing research on. And that research is number 2.1, and the title says wooden multi-panel sliding doors. 2.2, wooden pergolas. And so you're going to make sure you meet all of the requirements, even when we get to the freehand, all of that. All right. This checklist is your guide to making sure you get your 100%. All right. Let me just wrap this up. I will do a video on each one of these components. So we will talk you through each one of these components. This was the overview, but it's important for you to understand the big picture and to start thinking about that right now. All right, so on to the next lesson where we will actually start looking into it a bit more depth and actually show a couple of practical examples. All right, thank you for listening and watching. Cheers.